For much of his life and right up through the day he died last month, Supreme Judicial Court Chief Justice Ralph Gants was dedicated to serving the people of Massachusetts, as his wife, Deborah Ramirez, spoke of during an online memorial via Northeastern University, where she teaches law.
He was honored to be your chief. Every day, he bent the arc of the moral universe towards justice, one case at a time. Every day, he kept the doors to the courthouse open and the scales balanced. He lifted up the vulnerable and he held the powerful accountable. On the day he died, he went into his home office to work on a plan to try to avoid a tsunami of likely evictions that might soon be overwhelming the courts. He believed that the expiration of the housing eviction moratorium represented the gravest and greatest threat to public health and basic notions of fairness and justice than any other threat he had faced in his long career.
One piece of that effort Gants was concentrating on was fully funding the Rental Assistance for Families in Transition program, or RAFT, a state homeless prevention program that gives short-term financial assistance to low-income families who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. And Deborah Ramirez wants to see that through to the end. She joins me now along with Lewis Finfer, co-director of the Mass Communities Action Network. Lou, it's good to see you. And Deborah, we're sorry for your loss and our loss. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you,
Jim. Deborah, you're welcome, Lou. It's rather amazing watching the memorial that you, on one hand, speak lovingly of Ralph Gants as a father and husband, and then you essentially become a lobbyist for something that mattered so much to you and him. Did you, for a second, have doubts about whether or not that's what you wanted to say?
No, because I knew Ralph, and I knew that what he would say is, enough about me. Could we talk about the work that I was doing? And I also felt that if after a heart attack, he brought himself into his office to work on this, that it was important enough that all of us honor his memory, not just with stories, but by honoring and continuing his work.
Well, let's talk about that work for a minute, this RAFT program. The governor, we know, the other day put $100 million into it. You think the program is a good idea, but there actually, Deborah, is another family member who has convinced you that the way it's structured right now, it's a flaw. Your daughter works with would-be RAFT recipients at the Harvard Legal Aid Bureau. What's the issue that she confronted that's a problem?
Well, both Ralph and Rachel believed that the key to preventing evictions and homelessness would be for tenants to come into court with rental assistance money. When Ralph asked the other state court judges how this worked in their states when the eviction ban was lifted, they said, Ralph, the absolute key is that people have rental assistance money. If there's no money on the table to negotiate about, then all the judges and mediators and legal services lawyers are worthless. Rachel began working with people who were applying for RAFT, and she and her team of Harvard law students who were volunteers in early summer before Ralph died filed 30 applications. Some of those applications were 20 or 30 pages long. By the end of August, and by the time of Ralph's death, only one of those applications had been accepted and funded. Only one.
So the point is that more time is needed to get this process moving, is the point that she and you are making, correct?
Yes, she's found the system to be completely dysfunctional, arbitrary, and capricious, and Ralph called it mission impossible.
You know, Lou, if I can bring you in this conversation, $100 million from the governor sounds like a lot of money, and it is. But I read your comments in the paper that it's simply not enough. Do the math for us if you can.
Well, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council did a study. They identified 100,000 tenants and homeowners who can't pay their rent or mortgage, and that would need $100 million a month in subsidy. So the $100 million he put on the table is not a small amount, but it might serve 20% of the need. Stepping back from this, there's like a triple threat crisis going on. People have lost their jobs, their unemployment benefits have been cut, and their unemployment runs out in December. And all that is making it impossible for too many people to pay their rents and mortgages. And now the governor, by ending the moratorium on Saturday, turned on the faucet with 11,000 evictions starting up this week. And that means people could end up doubling up with people or going to shelters. In the time of a pandemic, we don't need that happening.
And by the way, Lou, clarify something for people where there may be confusion. While the governor's moratorium ended on Saturday, a moratorium from the federal government through the CDC continues through the end of the year. But my understanding is to qualify the much narrower set of circumstances that qualify. Is that correct, Lou?
In order to qualify, you have to fill out an intimidating and long affidavit. And also it doesn't cover homeowners. The other thing is the legislature could step up. The governor seems like he's feeling what he's doing is good enough, and you've heard Deborah say why it isn't. But the legislature could step up. There is a bill in the legislature, and we're trying to get the Speaker and Senate President to schedule it for a vote to extend the moratorium and protect people.
Okay, so Deborah, one, we know more money is needed, and as your former student, I think, at Northeastern, Maura Healey, has urged the governor to extend the moratorium at least long enough so that these applications can be processed and hopefully enough money. The governor came to your house after Chief Justice Gants died. You spoke to him then. I know that he was still on at the virtual memorial service when you spoke. Do you have any indication that there'll be movement from the governor and the legislature on both the issues that you and Lou were mentioning?
Well, there has been. Governor Baker did say to me, is the entire application process dysfunctional, or is it only dysfunctional for those people who are non-English speaking? And I said the entire process is dysfunctional. Ralph has investigated it. He calls it mission impossible because he doesn't think he could fill out that technical application and provide 20 pages of documentation. The governor, in fairness, responded appropriately 10 days ago by saying, I'm going to simplify the process. I'm going to streamline the process. I'm going to hire more RAFT managers and more RAFT processors so that we have enough people to process the applications. Because right now, there's a 2-month backlog. Rachel's client waited 2 months and 20 days to find out whether she would get her money.
Understood.
And finally got it.
But
I'm running low on time. I want to be clear. We need more time, Deborah, despite what the governor has committed. We need more time, and according to Lou, we need more money if we're serious about preventing these evictions and having homelessness numbers skyrocket. Is that a fair summary of where we are?
Yes, we have a good plan. We have a good plan on paper, but it's not operational yet. We don't have a streamlined new application or process. We haven't hired the RAFT managers or the other people. So we are back with the old Mission Impossible system.
Understood.
And until we have time to develop the infrastructure and architecture to implement that plan, then we should turn off the eviction machine. Because if we don't, people are going to be needlessly thrown out on the streets.
Lou, I interrupted you. You have 15 seconds to finish this off, if you would, please.
I think at this time it's really important that people contact their legislators and ask them to speak to Speaker DeLeo and Senate President Spilka to move this bill. Otherwise, the faucet is on evictions, and people are going to be forced to double up or go to shelters during a pandemic, which is the last thing we need.
Well, I can think of no better way out of your mouth, Deborah, to honor the life and work of your incredible husband than listening to both of you. Thank you both. Deborah, again, our thoughts are with you and your family, and we hope people will follow Lou's advice. Call your legislator. Deborah Ramirez, Lou Finfer, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you.